Welcome everyone. Buenas tardes or noches. It's pretty dark here in Vancouver, and it's only 6 p.m., but that's winter. So hi everyone. My name is Miret Rodriguez. I am VLACC's Vice President and Chair of the Programming Committee. I am also an art historian. We have another art historian in the room, and I will be your host for today's event. Angela, she's right there. She is currently a volunteer with VLACC, and she's also going to be working on this event, making sure that everything runs smoothly, sharing some links. But before we begin, I want to acknowledge that we are hosting this event from the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people. And I want to encourage all of you to read and understand the history of this land and the people who have taken care of it for thousands of years and what it means for you to be here. Angela has shared a resource on the chat that can be very useful in incorporating acts of reconciliation in our daily lives. Thank you for that, Angela. And for those of you that are not familiarized with VLACC, VLACC stands for the Vancouver Latin American Cultural Center. We are a nonprofit organization with the mandate of sharing a deeper understanding of Latin American arts and cultures. Our goal is to establish the first cultural center for Latin American arts in Canada, right here in Vancouver. So if you still don't know about our organization, please visit our website. We have added your email to our newsletter when you signed up if you didn't opt out. And normally we share news about our programming once a month through there. And you can also find the link to our website on the chat. And today's format is going to be very simple. We call this series Open Doors to Art. So what we're trying to do is make contemporary art accessible to everyone by sharing an experience that is known as a studio visit. And so this program was born right in the middle of the pandemic as a way to enter the lives and the studios of Latin American artists in Canada. And so we have decided to continue online regardless of in-person events being possible, because we do believe that this way it is accessible for our audiences that are not currently in Vancouver. And so you're probably already watching this as a recording, and this is a way for us to also make these experiences accessible. And so what we'll do today is we are going to have a short live interview, then a short studio visit. So Josema is going to take us around his space, and then we'll leave the floor open for any questions that you might have. So we please encourage you. We're a small group today, so you're highly encouraged to participate, to share any thoughts or any opinions. So please feel free to unmute your microphones at any time. As we've said at the beginning of the event, we are recording this event, which will be shared on the YouTube channel. And we also want to acknowledge the support of the City of Vancouver, the Government of British Columbia, and the federal government for their support of our programs. And so it's my pleasure to welcome Josema Zamorano with us. Hi, Josema. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm going to just quickly introduce you. I have some bullet points that I pulled out here from your bio. Just a little bit about Josema. He was born in Tepic, Nayarit, Mexico. He actually worked as a telecommunications engineer before becoming a visual artist. He says to have gained a new perspective while studying radio waves and philosophy of science at the University of Surrey in the UK. Poetry, existential philosophy, stories of ancestral Nahuatl culture influence his work. And in his thesis for his master's degree, he worked on the contemporary poetical interpretations of the foundational stories of Quetzalcoatl. So on screen, you see where Tepic Nayarit is. And you also see an illustration of Quetzalcoatl. Josema Zamorano also had a stay in Mexico City, and this prompted his interest in photography, which led into his visual arts practice. With intersecting interests in poetry, geometry, existential phenomenology, a critique of Mexican identity, and visual arts. He earned his PhD in interdisciplinary studies at the University of British Columbia in 2012. And he has taught for over 20 years a variety of topics from electrical circuits design and philosophy of technology to critical inquiry, art-based research, and Spanish. Josema today is currently a member of the faculty at Capilano University. So Josema, again, thank you so much for being here. Just to break the ice a little bit here, we've been fortunate to be at your physical studio, and your neighborhood was something that really, it was just great to be there. And so can you tell us where you are connecting from today and what you love about your current neighborhood?
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you all for looking at this little presentation. I come to you from the lands of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam peoples. Along the Commercial Drive is my neighborhood in Vancouver, Canada. Commercial Drive is one of the most vibrant places in Vancouver as a city. So definitely this is what I love of Commercial Drive, that is actually a little bit closer than everything else in the city, in this city, to probably Mexico City is my reference, because I used to live in Mexico City before immigrating into Canada 15 years ago. And Commercial Drive actually has some things going on all the time in the street, and I live right there. My window looks at the Grandview Park.
I did take this picture from your window.
Oh, that's right. There's a picture from the window. That's right, yeah. Right at the park, and it's just a busy and noisy place to be. But I love it because of that. No, I mean, it's hard to go to the street and not finding someone that you have a conversation with, and that's very special in Vancouver. I think it's difficult to find. It's hard to find.
I think that's such a different experience from mine. I live in the West End, and it's not busy at all. So I definitely feel a huge difference from. I'm also originally from Mexico City, and coming back, I just feel the silence. And so I did really enjoy visiting your studio and just looking out the window, like people crossing by. It's really like a sort of spectacle, or I don't know. There's something really great about that.
That's right. Yeah.
And so this is where you currently live and you work, is that right?
That's right. That's right. This is a living studio, share the space. I live here with my partner, and it's kind of like a transformable space, very flexible. Depending on what we do, it's very easy to move things and have a lot of space, or have a gathering of people visiting, or just living in here, no? The secret is not to have too much stuff.
That's true. I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
I do I enjoy not having too many things. So Josema, originally we have an activity planned. Since we're a small group, I think we might be able to jump into talking about your work. I will slide through these images for whoever's watching the recording. I invite you, while watching the recording, I invite you to look at the images that we're sharing here and write down a list of words, thoughts, or feelings that come to mind. So you're welcome to do this or skip maybe 30 seconds ahead. You can also, on YouTube, you can lower the speed of the video if you wish to look at the images lower. So I'm sharing here some images of Josema's work, and just take the time to look and kind of acknowledge what you're feeling, what you're thinking, what it reminds you of, and write that down on a piece of paper or on your phone. So you're welcome to just kind of acknowledge your observations and then see how that ties into what Josema is going to share with us now. So Josema, you have an extensive body of work. I'm showing here some screenshots from your current website, and the titles that we see here are titles of, would you consider them series?
But bodies of work, yes. Some of them are photo series, and some of them are performances or other things. But let's say each square there is a body of work somehow. Yeah.
Correct. Yes. So we have some here, and then there's another page. And so today, we previously selected a few series of bodies of work to talk about today, because these are also images that you are currently have hanging in your studio. So the first being Sandokai, La Física del Deseo, Atoll Tlachinoli. I hope I'm pronouncing it properly. Or is it Noyi?
Tlachinoyi, right?
Tlachinoyi, thank you. La Mirada Transmuta lo Tocado, Encounters, which you've exhibited in Berlin and also locally here with Capture Photo Fest. And then there's a little mauve sort of star there next to some migrations, because just in case we have time, I think that's one of the projects that I didn't have a chance to experience in person, but that I'm particularly very curious about. But already with this sort of panoramic view, we can see that your work is very, very flexible, very varied, and very extensive. So with this call, we're hoping to learn more how it all ties in, or maybe not necessarily ties in. So Josema, what does it mean to you to be able to communicate through visual art? Big question.
Well, good question. Yeah, I think it would be probably beyond communication. For me, art is more like a way of looking at the world. It's a way of thinking, it's a way of being, it's a way of interacting and communicating as well. All of those things. But I guess what it means to me more than another thing is the possibility of questioning the status quo of reality, you know, questioning what is supposed to be out there as reality, and imagining other possibilities. That's something that is very much of every kind of art, and poetry and literature and so many other things. But definitely in my case, I think it's kind of like a meta device in my case, because I also teach connected things to that in critical inquiry, for instance, and this possibility of being able to question and propose new ideas on how to connect things, how to glue things together. I think it's just good for me, good for everybody. I think it's connected to even solutions to environmental concerns nowadays. I just think it's a good thing. No? It's something that is part of being human, and that most of the time we kind of like put it aside, because we think that art making and art in general is something that is just not what drives the world into, let's say, growing the economy, right, of a country or something like that. And then it's put like in a lower level. No, you can see that like in the educational system, for instance. No, arts are always like in the very, very bottom of the scale of importance of things. And I think it's a mistake. I think it should be the other way. So just to say that is beyond, I think, just a personal liking, but I think is actually more like a proposal to change the world as well, no? Beyond me, no? And it's not just my job, it's the job of everyone. But art making is one of those ways, no? Yeah.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. Obviously, I'm not an artist, but as a kind of receiver sort of end, I do understand life better by speaking to artists, to speaking to you, and also trying to share that with people, which is also really the main goal of this call, right? Is to share that with others.
That's right.
And we'll speak more about these kind of in-depth questions, but just to talk about or start by through the formal and the physical characteristics of your work. I know that there are you've spoken to me about some technical photographic differences in Sandokai and Her on the Land, or Here on the Land. So I'm wondering what those are, if we can enter those works through the technical differences, and understand why that is significant to the work. So I have some images here for Sandokai, and also after this for Her on the Land, to try to illustrate that. So what are we seeing here? Are we seeing, I don't know much about photography, but just from looking at it, I understand there's a technical aspect of it. It seems like there's some layers that are superimposed. Maybe you can talk to us, tell us more about
Yes,
that.
for sure. And I don't know, perhaps if you allow me to share a screen, I can show that bigger.
Yeah.
I don't know, can I?
Yes, you can definitely. I will stop sharing.
Let me see.
I think you already have permissions.
Okay, let me see. Because yeah, I can give you a little tour of both works. Those both bodies of work, and then we can connect things. This is my web page here, and you were showing some images from Sandokai. That is this collection. So this is a little bit bigger, no, than the one that you have. I think. I don't know. Maybe it looks very small in your screen as well. I don't know.
You can actually zoom in as well.
Yeah,
this is great.
But these are cityscapes in Japan, and the name Sandokai comes from a Zen poem from the 1700s, which actually, I'm sorry, 700s, not 1700s, 700s, which the poem is actually, well, it's a sort of like meta discourse on poetry, because it's about reality that is never held as something concrete, but that is in flux and is changing and is never the same. And I was interested in this work. It was the first time I was playing kind of like very enthusiastically with photo montages in the street. I mean, photo montages in the street because these were created, the compositions were created while being in the street, while I was in the experience of being surrounded by that space and by moving my own body in a space while the picture was being made. So these are not compositions that came together in the computer. That's what I want to say. No, they were created with the camera as multiple exposures, double exposures in camera, and I was there when this was happening in a quasi spontaneous way. No, because the different images that come together, that are different perspectives of a space, different moments, but very close one to the other one. These were just a few seconds in the making, no? Like it's not a long time for creating what is the composition. The actual process of the image to render a print, that took months, no? As is normally in any photography process. But the compositions themselves, I mean, where the things are laid out in the image, those were from the moment when I was there, no? So these are cityscapes that are deconstructed basically, and they're deconstructed and reconstructed. However, these are very iconic places in Japan. So I think it was a way of questioning the iconicity, if I can say that, of places. Photography is very linked to the making of a copy of reality. It was born like that, right? It was born as a machine that would allow finally humanity to have a machine to make a copy of things, no? To render a very very precise, scientifically precise, neutrally precise copy of reality. And I'm using the medium to question precisely that, right? To question that that precision, and also to question what we do with that precision, because nowadays I think is the most common thing to play with, let's say, the selfies with the cell phone, right? I mean, we all have cameras on us when we're out there, and the images that circulate in the online media are many times ways of making those iconic places even more iconic, no, even more concrete, even more encapsulated, I think, into something that seems to be there as a very precise thing, no. And this work was a starting point, actually. I did other works after this one, playing with this idea of questioning that iconicity and that reality that is in front of the lens. And then it was also a way of bringing more into the frame of the image, of the photographic image, than just the click, right? My father used to say that I was a very bad photographer because my photos were either moved or they were not sharp or they were not clear, right? And I totally agree with him, because he was a better photographer in that case than me. But I think in this case, the image brings different moments and different spaces, and that's actually more than what the photographic frame is supposed to depict, right? The photographic frame is about like what the angle of the lens can capture, and the click is about the moment, the very precise instant when the camera makes a click and the image is captured. And this work is actually saying, no, I mean, the photographic image can be much more than that. And public spaces are also perspectivist spaces, because we're in movement, things are changing, my eyes are moving as well, and things are in flux at the end, right? So I'm sort of questioning the medium there and questioning reality as well, no, in that way. This work, you are connecting this work to another work that is actually about blending images and making photo montages in the same in situ, let's say, in the same space. And that would be say this other work that you were talking about, Here on the Land, at Tlachinoyi, Here on the Land, is connected technically because it's about blending images in the camera in the same place, and then working as post-processing with them just to render all the colors and contrasts and all of them. That takes months, years to work. But the technique of blending in the camera is pretty similar, right? But different as well, different. These are not cityscapes, but these are natural escapes that have been deconstructed and reconstructed by this process as well, right? And changing the meaning of them in different various ways. No? In this case, I think I was well, all of these works, all of these bodies of work of my whole work, I think they coming up very spontaneous way at the beginning. Like I wasn't planning to do this. I just had the idea of doing a project and being there in the space. In Japan, it was the same thing. In other places where I've been doing these kind of experiments, having the same thing. I don't go with a defined project to do, but I just start to live the moment in the space, and then little by little something comes up, no? And in this case, it was a very important moment because for me, because it was the lockdown of COVID. There were not many things to do out of Vancouver. Impossible to travel a year ago, in the summer of a year ago, when this body of work started to be happening. And the only kind of thing that was like very possible to do was going just like away camping, no, and staying in nature, into the woods. And this was an amazing opportunity to enter into another realm, another spiritual realm as well, another experience of being alive, connected with all this that is surrounding us in these amazing lands that we live, right? That we live on in this part of Canada, and pretty much all over Canada as well. It was also bringing all of these concerns that we had at that moment, no? I mean, what is happening in the world environmentally, what is happening with COVID as part of that environmental situation as well. How are we affecting the environment, and how are we connected to the whole, right? So what came to be little by little during a 1 month experience of doing this project, I mean, the beginning of creating the compositions of this project, that's what I mean. It was, I think, a way of showing via these images how the tree is actually the water, the sky is actually the mountain, the mountain is the trees, the clouds are the water. I am part of the whole there. I'm one more thing that is in that continuous transformation that is never ending, right? And I found that amazing while I was being there. No, it actually changed me. No, I had to say it was a life experience, very important one, right? As a life experience. Yes, Angela, please go ahead.
Sorry. Hi, Josema. I'm very impressed.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm very.
Nobody can say that. Thank you.
No, I am. It's impressive. I'm very impressed and like curious about several things. I don't know if I get it right, but is it not exactly layers what we're seeing? So it's like your camera capturing different angles on the same, like in the same moment, like as you move. Is that right?
Yes, it's actually what it was traditionally a double exposure in the camera, in a film camera, right? That you could take one shot, keep the same frame of the roll of the film in the same place in the camera, so it was not like cranking the roll at the moment, and then taking a second shot. That is not that straightforward. You need to do a lot of like mental calculations and stuff to get it done. I'm doing it with a digital camera that allows that functionality of the film for doing multiple exposures. Not every camera allows that, but I've been playing with cameras that do the double exposure or multiple exposure for kind of almost 10 years now. But you can all of us, we can do that, no, with a digital camera nowadays. Cell phones is harder to do, but some applications allow to doing a double exposure as well. But it's as you say, it's 2 layers of images, like the layers in Photoshop. But it would be a totally different kind of work if I would be layering this in Photoshop as a very mental, rational way of putting things together in a computer process, right? This was very spontaneous. I was there. I was in the feeling of the environment there, and I was taking one shot here and just 2 or 3 seconds after blending something else and looking at what happens as a sort of feedback from the camera. That's quite modern, right? I mean, it's not something that people using the film was able to do. I'm able to have some feedback like right away. And that feedback allows me to fine tune a little bit things and probably make a second try and see what happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of process, yeah.
I was also like curious about where to decide the moment, because well, you have iconic places to take those shots. So what makes you decide to take this one or not another one? Like how to decide which exact thing is what you want?
Very good question. Because with the film, with the film camera, it was pretty random what you could get in the first shot and then layered with the second shot, because you couldn't see at all what was in the film when you were taking the second frame. In my case, I actually can see the first layer as an overlay through my viewfinder here. So I can see a first layer and then move around the camera and see something that I like how it's layering at that moment. And in a very quick sort of operation, take the second shot there, right? So definitely something that is very important in this kind of work. The same with the work in Japan. I mean, I was able to see the first frame and then see how to put together a second frame on top of that, right? Yeah.
Wow,
It's super interesting.
I'm still very
Thank you.
impressed.
Thank you. Some of them, they look like very fairy tale kind of thing, right? Like this one is like, I think from the Lord of the Rings kind of space, no? But it's, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's just they really like when I just seeing them in person, but also like even digitally, you can just like kind of plunge in there and try to figure it out, but at the same time you're okay with not understanding what's on top or what's in the bottom because it just goes so well together. But I guess that's also what you were trying to say about being in nature, right? That everything just feels
a continuous, right? A continuum of like one thing takes to the other one, takes to the other one, and you know, this is the tree and that's the river, but at the same time they are the same thing in a way, no? So exactly. Yeah, that came to be part of this work. But definitely the images and answering to Angela's question, part of the decision, I think, even if I'm not thinking that much at the moment of doing it, but part of the decision is when is that point where the images that become blended make for ambiguity to explode, right? Because as you say, it looks like it could be real, some of them, but at the same time is not, right? I mean, they look like they have some realism, I think, as part of the thing, because these are actually landscapes, right, out there. These are all on the Rocky Mountains, these landscapes. And then at the same time, they are not, right? They are something else, and they are imaginations connected to what is there, and what is there in a very loosely way, because it's not that concrete either, no? It's changing as well. So, yeah.
Josema, you mentioned your father is also a photographer?
He was, yeah. I mean, an amateur photographer. He was an amateur photographer for, I don't know, 50 years or so. Then he stopped doing it. But I grew up when he was very interested in photography, and he was actually very interested in astronomy. He was also an engineer. And at some point he was doing astrophotography, no, astronomical photography, which is totally interesting, no? And very tricky to do as well. So I guess I started doing photography because of him. He gave me my first camera. He gave me my first films, and we started doing things together. And then I just took my own way, obviously, no? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Josema, that's actually another topic that I wanted to talk about, is that marriage or intersection or sort of flow in between a visual expression, such as photography, but also your background in engineering, which in a sense seems to have brought you to your latest work, La Física del Deseo. So I was hoping if you could tell us how that developed. And
yeah, well, I think it's a sort of thing like the Bauhaus. I don't know if you have heard of that school in Germany at the beginning of the 20th century. That was sort of like the Bauhaus.
Yes.
In different versions that it was a school in Germany, you know, that made an amazing tradition of bringing together kind of engineering thinking and art making together.
I see.
And very naturally that happened to me, you know. I think these images are somehow influenced by that kind of way of thinking, no, of the Bauhaus. Why? Because there are very precise things going on, and there are very aesthetical things going on as well as ambiguous things, no, in the making of these images. It's very technical as well in the way of doing things. It's sort of like the mindset of an engineer when you are like adjusting the things in the camera to make everything happen as you wish. And also in the process of rendering the prints, no, because I've been working a lot in rendering prints, and the print making is also another technique that is just like very engineering like, no, like it's very technical as well, no, to do what you want to do. But yeah, you are right. I don't know. Do you want to jump to La Física del Deseo here?
Yes, if we
can connect with that. Because I think it connects also to the name La Física del Deseo, the physics of desire. It connects to the name here, Atl Tlachinoyi. Atl Tlachinoyi means in Nahuatl, in the ancient language of the center of Mexico. There are still millions of people in Mexico that speak Nahuatl, right? And what means Atl Tlachinoyi is burning water, and is a sort of yin yang spirit, right? I mean the opposites coming together. And I found like the coming together of the water with the sky with the land, and the water with the mountain, as that sort of like coming together of things. That is actually nothing less than Quetzalcoatl itself, right? I mean, herself or himself, whatever you want to, is a goddess, is a god, is everything. But this very central figure of the ancient histories and stories of Mexican culture in ancient times from the indigenous peoples is very centered in Quetzalcoatl as this power force for transformation, endless, inexhaustible transformation, with many names and many faces as well, no? Quetzalcoatl is the shell, because there is a spiral there, and because you hear a very interesting thing when you're listening to the shell. Quetzalcoatl is the burning water as a symbol as well. Quetzalcoatl is also the quincunce, we call it in Spanish, that is the coming together of 4 points into a center that is part of the sandstone in the Nahuatl iconography, no? If you remember what is the sandstone, no? Actually, why not? Why not?
Sandstone?
The sandstone. Let me just put it here. La piedra del sol.
Ah, okay, sí, la piedra del sol, sí. Sandstone,
sí.
no.
La piedra del sol, yeah, sandstone, yeah. There you go. This is the sandstone, right?
Oh, I see.
So, and this is a huge piece in the Museum of Anthropology in Mexico. Is like 3 meters diameter, whatever, of stone. But it has so many. I mean, it has probably millions of versions in the ancient Mexican indigenous iconography, right? And what you have, let's pick this one, for instance, here. What you have is actually here in the very center, you have the 4 points here, and then a center, right? And that repeats over and over and over in so many different ways that is actually different ways of expressing the spirit of Quetzalcoatl, no? Let me tell you. I'm going to connect all of this with La Física del Deseo, the physics of
I know they do. No, this is super interesting. Thank you. I'm sure our viewers are going to be like, oh.
Yeah, I'm taking a little bit about Mexican archaeology here, but this is another version of it. Is the 5 points, 4 of them that are surrounding a center that you can see in this image here. Let's put this one here. Come on, load.
I actually never noticed the symbol.
Not really loading that one. Well, let's see this one here. Is it loading that one? I don't know what is happening with this internet.
We can see it.
Well, let me go to this Pinterest one.
Yeah, we can see it now.
There you go. Yeah, it's not much bigger, but it's the same one, kind of.
Yeah, we see the 4 kind of.
But this is. It has so many meanings. I mean, is the 4 different directions of the world coming together into a center? Is the 4 different eras of the history coming together as the present as well? And is the joint of the opposites coming together at the very end, right? So it's actually beautiful and existential as well, in the sense that it's sort of like the gathering of all being something or a person as a context that comes together as a whole, right? As something here, no? So let me connect that with La Física del Deseo.
And also, I didn't want to interrupt you, but really the titles or the text that goes with the visuals are very important in your work. Not only in La Física del Deseo, but I also see that.
Yes, that's right. Actually, text has been always part of my work, because I sort of like transitioned from engineering into art making via poetry. Not that much as a poet writing poetry, that at the end I've been writing poetry, but as a reader of poetry. I went to the National University from ground zero to study again after a master's in science, to know about mostly Latin American poetry, right? Which is totally interesting. And also Latin American poetry connects lots of stuff with indigenous cultures all the time, because it's full of indigenous cultures down there, right? But just to begin with this first image here of La Física del Deseo, that these are prints that you can see actually in the background here. I mean, I have some of them there, and I can take you in a minute to see those closer. But just this one here. I mean, this to me is Atl Tlachinoyi as well, right? I mean, is the join of the opposites into the whole. In this case, is the positive and the negative. The red and the black, that I think Quetzalcoatl was kind of like playing physics, or physics has a lot to do with Quetzalcoatl at the end, because I was a physics student for a long time. I mean, it was my favorite topic. All my years as an engineer, that was like half of my life by now, and I was always thinking on this sort of like play in physics that is about 2 things coming together, interacting together. In many of the cases is one and the other as a sort of opposites, very, very common in all the physics of electricity, but not only. And also very erotic, I think. I mean, there is lots of eroticism. That is another sort of like amazing transformation force, no? And I don't know if the physics people has like been thinking too much about eroticism, but as a physics student, I was thinking always about, oh, this is kind of like very erotic somehow, no? But there you go. Here it says in the text, it says, la energía acumulada aumenta si las superficies se acercan. And some of the phrases in English here are already translated by a poet friend that she's working right now on the translations. This one is actually one of the translated by her already that is here. It says accumulated energy increases if surfaces move closer together, which I think is open to many ways of looking at. I mean, understanding the text, understanding the image. I was thinking of the image itself to be just a poem in itself. All of these work, the visuals are poems in the tradition of concrete poetry, in which the graphical aspect of the poem is actually the poem, right? That's why it's called concrete poetry. And Latin America has an amazing tradition of concrete poetry, beginning in Brazil. But let's say in Mexico, Octavio Paz, Nobel Prize poet, was one of those people playing with concrete poetry as well, right? And Canada has amazing concrete poets as well, playing with this kind of stuff. But the visual is intended as a sort of like poem as well. No, like you look at it, it could mean many things, and you just go with it, you know. But I thought to blend in this with a line of text in this case, and the line of text itself as well could work by itself. So because of this coming together, then there is an interplay of these two things, no? And all the images as a body of work, I think they make sense in bringing these aspects of the visual and the text together in the title, right? The physics of desire, no? That you wouldn't normally put together these two things. I mean, physics and desire is like, physics is about science. Come on, it's not about desire, right? And desire is not about physics. What are you talking about, right? Well, what I'm saying is no, they are actually very connected, these two things, no? And I'm trying to find and explore an existential aspect of physics, no? In this case, and have fun, no? This one says, se alejan periódicamente y aceleradamente se acercan. I don't have the proper translation right now for this one, but the one I made is periodically they drift away and hastily they get closer. Which, I mean, could be, I don't know, two people, two planets, the sun and a planet. It's about astronomy. It's about particles. It's about people. This one here, I don't know. Let's make a sort of like a poll here. What do you see? What do you see here in this one?
Gravity.
What do you say?
Gravity.
Gravity. Okay, that's one. Yeah. What else?
Angela, what do you see?
I don't know. For me, it's more like can uterus or something like that.
Oh,
like
a U-turn.
Okay.
A uterus.
Yes.
Útero.
Again?
Sí,
Un útero.
Oh, a uterus. That's right.
Un óvulo cerca.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see.
Do you want to go, Sandra? If you're there.
Yeah, I think more of a valley and the kind of stasis at the bottom of the valley and gravity as well.
And gravity, right? Yeah. I think I'll tell you what my partner thought of it. She says no, but it's just fun. Yeah. She thought of a crack of the bum of a person and the red spot like the anus, right? So there you go.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Okay. Could be probably the egg and the sperm. I don't know, right? It could be all of those things, right? And it says, la energía aumenta aceleradamente hasta disiparse. I think I have the translation of this one. Yeah. This is the translation from Elena Dunsmore, my poet friend. energy increases rapidly until it dissipates, which it's also allow physics in a gravitational well, right? But it could be for many other situations as well. As Sandra says, it could be a valley with a stone that is falling into the valley. Nancy says I'm a psychoanalyst. She says that's why she came up with the other one there. Yeah.
Are these visually, these diagrams, are they, do they exist in the physics language, or are these, did you make them?
Totally. There are variations of what you will find in a high school physics books.
Okay.
Totally. I mean, I've seen these kind of images. I mean, not these images, these were my creation, but these kind of images are very common in a physics books of high school and over that, no?
So like to the physicists, it means something else. They will read it differently.
Exactly.
Like
they were in my making, they were sort of pulled to what I wanted to say, not in that sort of like very neutral way that shows in the book of physics, no? But they are actually very simple images as well. I think it's very Bauhaus idea, this work.
I see what you're saying.
With very few items, very few lines, very simple kind of thing. Yeah. But it's still sort of like suggesting a bunch of stuff. No, this one here is actually another Quetzalcoatl to me. I don't know if you see it, but I mean, I'm talking about this kind of image of Quetzalcoatl, of this Atl Tlachinoyi. There was another name for that one, the Nawi Ojin. That is the four movement in Nahuatl. The four movement, because it's the four that come together to make dynamism, no? To make the transformation happen. And well, there you go in this one. I mean, you have 5 lines coming together, right? So this could be in the book of optics, but to me, it's also kind of Quetzalcoatl is in influence in this one, and also in the different meanings that it may have, right? In this one, the text says, el punto de enfoque existe solo si comprende el contexto, which I don't have the proper translation right now from Elena. She's coming next week, I think, with some of these, but is the focus point exists only if it comprehends the context. That was my translation, my very bad translation, which is not what would you find describing the law of physics as optics, right? In the book of physics. Yes, Angela.
Yeah, I was just like speaking about sentences. When you're studying physics or any kind of engineer, you kind of have to memorize those little sentences because it's the way you apply the formula, right? So it's like something you have to have there in the back of your mind because it's the way to apply formula. So it's very curious the way you play around with them and to just like play with the words and change them to give them like a whole new context. Like
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just like back to school, like memorizing all those sentences.
Yes, and then studying philosophy myself, I was totally into. I'm still into very much existential philosophy, which is, I think, a tool to question modernity right now. It's a tool to question the situation of the environment right now, because there is this kind of like proposal. I think I will call it that way, that came, let's say, in the 1930s as part of existential philosophy, that the being of things is not something that you have in front of you, right? The being of things is actually something that is connected to you because you have a context and you're part of that context, and that something is also part of that context as well. And you are only a whole something in a very Quetzalcoatl way when you actually gather all these contexts into you, or into the meaning of things, right? So this may sound very boring, but it's actually something that is suggested, I think by the graphic here, no? I mean, all the lines come together to a focal point, right? As a sort of focus point that is actually bringing together everything that a big lens captures, right? And then the focal point brings together everything in that point, no? Concentrates that historicity, if you want to call it. But it's also probably about two people coming together, one to the other. So it's about love as well, no? It's about relationships, I think. It's about understanding as well, comprehending something, no? You only understand something when you understand the context. Otherwise you don't know much about the thing, right? So it's also connected to that. So these pieces all play with that kind of thing, no? And thinking that some of the images work with some of the pieces of text, then I thought of the book you were talking about, because yeah, I'm just coming with this book that is kind of like still kind of like warm from the oven, which what I thought of this book is, why not to do a different play with these images and texts, the text working by themselves as something on their own. So you can actually flip the lower part of the book and just play with text here. I don't know if you can see that, and I can flip the pages of the lower part of the book and then just read text, no? And sort of it would be in that case sort of like a poetry book where you have only one verse in every page, and then you flip through the pages and you have that. Or you can have exactly the opposite, leave the text alone and just see the visuals, right? And have a sort of ride with the poetry, the concrete poetry in this case, right? The only the visuals, they are very suggestive. This is a winding, a coil producing a magnetic field, but it's also a vagina, or it's also a conch. I mean, a shell, right? So it could be it's very open to many things. So you can play with that. Or a third mode of my book is that you can actually put together pieces of text and pieces of concrete poetry to make your own poem, right? So some of the combinations that you will come up with, they make total sense. Many of those combinations make total sense. Some of them, they make less sense, but they all work somehow because it's all about one and another, right? It's about the connection of things, the connection of opposites. So I thought, yeah, why not? Why not just to make a sort of like make your own poem kind of book, no?
I love it.
There has been lots of ideas of that kind in the history of poetry books, no?
I must have one of those books. Josema.
Yeah, from Ulipo, I'm sure.
That is amazing. I love the book.
Oh, thank you, Sandra. Thank you. Yeah, I'm right now writing a grant, trying to gather some money to make an English version with Elena Dunsmore's translations, and make a little bit more of a run that could be commercial price, because this one I ended up rebinding. I mean, unbinding the book, making the cut of the section there, and then rebinding manually the book.
Right.
And I'm making 50 copies of this, and then the copies ended up being $80, no? Which is totally not reasonable for what it is. I mean, it's just a little book, right?
It's an art book.
Sorry?
I think it's a reasonable price.
I think it's a reasonable price too.
Well, thank you. Yeah, but it's not what would you normally pay for this kind of thing in the store, no? But that's when you produce probably, I don't know, 500 copies or whatever, no? So let's see how it goes with an English version of it. Yeah, I'm planning to have a longer run of printing in the English version of it. Yeah. So yeah, that's how some of the stuff connects, right? I mean, I think the blending of these photo montages that we've been talking about, also probably I would connect also to this other kind of work that has been in the last few years also made. This is from the exhibit in Berlin of these encounters show. But the encounters collection, this was a 3-meter wide piece of paper. The encounter collection is all made of also, again, the encounter, right, of two, and in this case it's actually two very loosely two, because it's a very swift, continuous panning of the camera with one single shot in making the blending of things. And that's why they look very painter-like. No, this is the spread of that paper, of that very long paper, which again, I mean, questions, I think, the iconicity of spaces. I mean, you see the icon of Berlin there. That is the tower, the telecommunications tower. That was in the sort of like the East Berlin side, and it was in all the movies and it still is, right? But well, I mean, what you have there is not what you see when you go there, right? And that was the play that I was doing. Again, I mean, questioning the medium, playing with photography in that way, no? But connects to all of the other stuff that we've been talking about, no? I mean, the coming together of things, the opposites coming together, the questioning of the concreteness of reality that we have out there. And I was telling you that that's connected to stuff that I teach, because I've been teaching at the Interdisciplinary Studies at Capilano for a few years, courses that are about methods, and my participation in those courses, I've been trying to do it as a questioning of the methods, as a decolonization of the methods as well, no? Bringing some indigenous ideas into what methodology is supposed to be. At a time when it's very serious, no? Doing research is supposed to be just about following the script, no? Following the recipe on how to do things, no? So I've been always questioning that, no? I've been more close to praxis-based ways of exploring things. That is actually more an indigenous way of thinking and doing things, and an indigenous way of being, getting to know things by praxis, no? By playing out there in the world. And this is actually my work, I think. It's always part of my work, no? So I have some of these images in real life, so why not to show you? I think
you read my mind. I was going to ask if we
well, it's about time, I think, no?
Okay.
So yeah, let me show you a few things in the studio here. So I need to stop sharing here. We're there.
Yeah.
So this is the apartment, the commercial drive. This is the living studio space. It's a very big sort of kitchen and hall and living room together, which is totally flexible. Like, that's the table, but the table flips up. There is another little table, flips up. Everything is movable. So sometimes we use all the space for different things. These are some of the images that you were looking at. These are other images that you were looking at. Some of them, we've been talking about them. But let me bring you to the hall here, entering the apartment. And I have a little space here to mount things and see how they look as well. So some of these images actually are from what we were talking about, like this one right here. This one right here is in the frame there.
No, the Berlin one.
Yeah, exactly. We were just looking at that one in my page, right?
Yes.
So these are printed in cotton rag paper with a lot of texture, and they are very painter-like, right?
That that painterly feeling, right?
Yeah, so they are very much into this questioning of the medium again, no? Because it's not the typical thing you will see from photography, no? The sharpness, the very defined areas and all of that. I think I gave, this one here. I think I gave Sandra, that is here with us, a copy of this one in a very small version.
Oh, like Andrea.
Yeah, but this is a 40 inches wide print. That is part of a collection of prints, no, that have that format. But it's a good.
That is very ambiguous. It's like, is it a reflection on the floor? Are these like dabs of paint, or are they coats on people?
Yeah, and actually it has like 2 foldings almost, no? And it came in a very spontaneous way, obviously, but it's like you can fold it by half vertically or horizontally, and you get a reflection there. But it happened in kind of like 4 or 5 seconds with a movement of the camera playing with it, right? This is from another body of work that is connected to that way of doing pictures, but this is from La Mirada Transmuta lo Tocado. That is an exhibit that I made in Mexico City a couple of years ago, just before COVID. But it's the same kind of idea of bringing together things, and it's just one single shot that I have to work on it for months, because what comes when I'm in the street and I do the image there, it comes very, very faint, everything, and then I have to work for months bringing detail, like painting. No, I have a stylus here that I'll almost put it here in your eye, almost, because that's what I do. I mean, I go on the screen, directly on the screen, and I fine tune, I mean, degrees of contrast, of values of color, you know, I mean, it's just kind of like dark room kind of thing, you know?
Wow.
This is from that collection of La Mirada Transmuta lo Tocado. I think it was translated as gaze transmutes what is touched. Yeah, gaze transmutes what is touched, as the title of the whole collection. And again, I mean, there is a lot of ambiguity going on, right? I mean, who is who in the image? There are 3 bicycles where there is a woman in black riding the bicycle, but is it the same woman, or is 3 different women coming together, right? A little bit of a close up, just to see a little bit of detail there.
Right. Very ghostly too.
Yeah, very ghostly, and it makes I think it makes a point on the fluidity of things, no? And I'm moving, things are moving, the world is in transformation constantly, and that's not exactly what the typical photography shot would bring, right? These are from the collection of, I mean, a few of those prints of the physics of desire. I'm at the end.
So are these hands drawn? What is the difference between what we see there and what we see on the book?
Well, the images for the book, I took them from these prints, from these designs that I made here, right? But the designs, the graphical designs themselves, you won't believe what I used to do this, because it was a sort of Bauhaus idea of working with very few pieces, very few elements, very few shapes.
Colors, right?
I ended up using Word, Microsoft Word, the insert shape function.
Interesting.
Because you have like 4 choices, 5 choices, that's it. So I say, oh, let's just play with that. I don't want many choices, right? I don't want many choices. So all of them, they were made in that way. This one here, we didn't talk about this one, but this is, this is one of the amazing ones in terms of what is going on in the meaning, I think, or the possible meanings of this, no?
Almost like an eclipse.
It's like an eclipse. It's like just a circle with a halo there. I mean, to me, it was calling to some sort of Zen-like kind of a spirit of the perfect circle. The text there, it says, una puede cubrir a la otra sin importar las diferencias. That's one may cover the other one despite the differences, no? Which, I don't know, could mean, again, no? Could be about people, one protecting the other one, right? It doesn't matter that your partner is totally different than you would protect your partner, kind of that kind of thing. But also, as you say, Meredith, in the case of the eclipse, if this is an eclipse, this is calling for a very, very special situation that happens astronomically to have what we see as an eclipse. Because when we have an eclipse of the moon shadowing the sun, we're used to see that eclipse in a way that the moon, exactly the size of the moon, covers the size of the sun. Is that right?
Right. Yeah.
And then you only see the halo of fire around the sun, right? But everything else is covered, exactly, precisely covered at the same size. Well, I don't know if you know this, but this is, in terms of science, this is just an accident, an impossible accident, because it was impossible for that to happen as possibilities, but it happens. It happens because it's a geometry thing that everything had to be placed at that precise size, distance, perspective, everything for that to happen. I mean, let's say if the moon would be closer to us, you would see more of the sun, right? If the moon would be farther than what it is, it would be totally a different thing because you wouldn't see the ring of fire, right? So it's just a beautiful accident.
Love that.
Yeah, these are some of the images from Sandokai. I sold some of them I have here. These are like, I think 44 inches wide, something like that.
Are those on, they're on aluminum or?
Yeah, they are prints mounted on aluminum. That's right. Yeah. These are prints mounted on aluminum and then with a cover. And I take you a little bit to, well, I mean, let me see this here. This is a body of work we didn't talk about, but it's a series of 24 images I made of ocean escapes with the same idea of the Berlin escapes, right? And it's totally pertinent, sort of painter-like, no? If you see the detail there of the white water over the darkness, right?
Is that like a cloud or what is this?
No, it's the foam. It's the foam of the wave.
Okay.
Well, the wave. Yeah. So I made a whole series of these images as well. I haven't even documented this, but they've been created over a few years now.
Is there a rainbow in this one? There's some sort of
actually the sun is the sun. Yeah. What you see there is the sun.
The colors I see on screen are really like beautiful. It's like these kind of like orange and blue. I don't know if that's what you see on your end.
Yeah. And you see the sun sort of like a movement there, a trace, because my body was moving, right? These are images created with my movement, my body movement.
That line was the movement of the sun?
That line was the movement of my body.
Okay.
I'm sort of like making a dance when creating those images, right? I have the camera in the hand with the shutter open, and I'm moving my body and doing certain movements. And people looks at me like this guy is totally crazy, right? Not taking the picture. What is he doing, right? So I feel very embarrassed sometimes.
I think Angela had a question or a comment.
Yes, please go ahead.
I just like heard you just like use different type of materials to print. Like how does it goes with that decision? Like where to print? Because we were looking at like the book. So it's paper now. We're looking at some aluminum. I don't know, like what's the decision of that?
Well, let me show you my printer here. This is a professional photo printer this is only 17 inches wide carriage. I mean, I can put rolls that are 17 inches wide, right?
Mm.
But that's an amazing Epson professional photo printer that you can buy in any size, right? But the technique is the same, exactly the same. And everything we have seen, except for the big Sandokai pictures, I've been printing here. No, this is another one from the ocean escapes. Now I am in the bedroom that is used as a studio space as well. This is actually in Tofino.
I was going to say that looks like BC.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes. And this is a little space as well where I do some things as well there. I'm painting some watercolor stuff lately. So
Oh.
that was supposed to be a closet, but I made it part of a little studio as well. These are the amazing windows that you were taking pictures from. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you have an amazing
This is
view.
another
So
one. I can see North Van from here, from this one here.
Oh,
Yeah. This other window. So some other stuff there, the bed. So it's a typical sort of a studio living space, right? That you do what you can with the rent that you can pay and survive with that. No, it's very common for artists here.
But in a sense, your like your workspace, in a sense, it seems to be the exterior as well. You seem to like to be out there.
I've said that many times that my studio is the street. Yeah. For much of my work, the studio is much more the street than the indoor space. That's right. Yeah.
Well, Josema, this was, I mean, for me, it was a treat. I'm sure for everyone else on the call and viewing the recording as well, I hope. I'm sure. I don't know if Angela or Sandra have any other questions or comments.
I do actually. It's not a question. It's just an observation about the things that unite your work, I think, which it's amazing, your work. But I think that the sense I get from all of it is that reality is ungraspable, but that's not going to stop you from being compelled to try to show that, right? So I really like that kind of thread that I perceive through your work. I don't know if you would agree, but
totally, Sandra. Thank you for your comment. And yeah, I think you're totally right. I do believe reality is inexhaustible and ungraspable, and what I do are just like, as you say, sort of like playing on things and tries not to make it more concrete in any way, but just to express that ambiguity that I see out there, right? Yes.
That is a perfect way to end this call. Thank you so much for that, Sandra.
That reflection. Thank you.
I always leave these calls with a lot in my mind. I feel super inspired. So thank you so much, Josema, for being here.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for your patience in staying so long with Head speaking. I mean, it's hard for me to stand. So thank you very much.
No, we loved it. I loved it personally.
It was a true pleasure, Josema.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sandra. Yeah,
we
really.
enjoyed a lot. I mean, it was very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just share one last slide here for people watching us on YouTube. Don't forget to follow us at VLACC_CA. You'll see a handle there for Curated Tastes. So that is a project that I run in Vancouver, where I do these sort of studio visits in person. So you're welcome to follow that as well to discover other artists in the city. And of course, don't forget to follow Josema Zamorano at Josema_Zamorano. So these are the Instagram handles. And if you would like to see Josema's work through his website, it's josemazamorano.com. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And we look forward to seeing you in person and in other online events. And have a wonderful, and Wendy, thank you so much for being there.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank
Bye,
you so much.
everyone.
Thank you so much, folks. Yeah,
Thank you.
lovely.
All right. Have a lovely weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye.